Ever pondered why some of your dreams remain just that, dreams? Could fear be the invisible barrier? Let's unravel this enigma together, shall we? Fear, a simple four-letter word, yet it carries such profound weight. It's not just an emotion, it's a complex, multifaceted phenomenon. It can be a protective instinct, a survival mechanism, but it can also be a prison, a self-imposed limitation that stifles our growth and curtails our potential. Imagine a seed, full of life and promise, encased within its shell. It carries the potential to become a towering tree, to spread its branches wide and high, but to do so, it must first brave the elements. It must push through the soil, face the wind and rain, bask in the sun, and endure the cold. If the seed were to fear these challenges, it would remain just that. A seed, never realizing its potential to become a mighty tree. That's what fear does to us. It keeps us encased within our shells, preventing us from pushing through the soil of challenges, from basking in the sunlight of opportunities. It whispers doubts into our minds, sows seeds of uncertainty, and convinces us to remain within our comfort zones. It tells us that the world outside is too harsh, too challenging, too big for us to handle. But here's the thing about fear. It's subjective. What may seem like a towering giant to one may be a mere pebble to another. It's all about perspective. Fear is not an external entity, it's a creation of our minds, an illusion, and like all illusions it can be dispelled. The key is to understand that fear is not the enemy, it's a signal, a warning that we're stepping outside our comfort zones, that we're pushing our boundaries. It's a sign that we're growing, evolving. So the next time fear whispers in your ear, remember, it's not a barrier, it's a challenge. It's not a prison, it's a catalyst. It's not a weapon to hold you back, but a tool to propel you forward. Fear, when left unchecked, becomes a weapon that keeps us in chains. But when harnessed, it can be the wind beneath our wings, the fuel that drives us towards our dreams. Fear is not just a feeling, it's a weapon, a tool wielded by unseen forces. It's a chilling whisper in the dark, a specter that lurks in the corners of our minds, gnawing at our courage and sapping our strength. But this fear, this crippling dread, is not a natural part of us. Rather, it's a weapon used by unseen forces to keep us from reaching our full potential. In the grand tapestry of life, we are threads of potential, each with a unique pattern to weave. Yet, fear, like a pair of shears, threatens to snip our threads short, keeping us from weaving our part in the grand design. It's as if we are ships, designed to sail the vast seas. Yet fear is the anchor that keeps us moored, preventing us from exploring the boundless possibilities life has to offer. From a biblical perspective, fear is not from God. In 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 it is written, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind." Fear then is not a divine decree but a tool of the adversary. The devil, the adversary, uses fear to whisper doubts into our minds. He sows seeds of uncertainty, casting shadows on our path, making mountains out of molehills. He tempts us to question our worth, our capabilities and our purpose, aiming to paralyze us with fear. But let's remember, fear is not a reality, it's a perception. It's not a monster under our beds, but a phantom of our minds. It's a weapon in the hands of the adversary, yes, but we hold the power to disarm it, to cast it aside, and to step into the light of our full potential. The devil, the adversary, uses fear to whisper doubts into our minds, but he can only succeed if we lend him an ear. And that, dear listeners, is our choice to make. Remember the story of David and Goliath? A young shepherd boy against a giant warrior. This tale, steeped in biblical lore, is not just about a physical confrontation between a weak boy and a formidable giant. It is, at its core, a narrative about the battle between fear and courage. Imagine the scene. Goliath, a towering figure armored with weapons of war, imbued with a reputation of invincibility. And then there was David, a mere lad, armed only with a sling and 5 smooth stones, his heart pounding in his chest. The odds seemed insurmountable, the outcome inevitable. Yet David stepped forward, undeterred by the mountain of fear before him. But how did he do it? David was no fool. He must have felt fear. His knees would have trembled, his palms sweated, his breath hitched. Fear is a natural response to danger, and Goliath was danger personified. Yet David did not let fear control him. Instead, he harnessed it, used it as a catalyst to action, not a barrier to progress. David's courage did not deny the existence of fear, rather, it acknowledged fear and chose to act despite it. He showed us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to move forward despite it. It is the choice to look fear in the eye, acknowledge its presence, and then step forward anyway. David's victory over Goliath was monumental, a triumph of faith over doubt, of courage over fear. But it was not merely the felling of a giant that marked his victory. It was the conquering of his own fear, the overcoming of his personal Goliath that truly signified his triumph. David's story serves as a powerful reminder. Fear is not our enemy. It is a challenge, a mountain to be climbed, a giant to be faced. It is a test of our character, our strength, and our faith. It is a call to courage, a summons to step out of our comfort zones and confront our own Goliaths. David's victory wasn't just about slaying a giant, it was about conquering his own fear. Consider Job, a man who suffered unimaginable losses. In the annals of biblical history, few stories are as poignant as that of Job. A man of great wealth and renown, Job had it all: a loving family, vast lands, and countless livestock. Yet, in a swift and cruel twist of fate, he lost everything. His property was destroyed, his children perished, and his body was afflicted with painful sores. Job's life, once filled with joy and prosperity, was now marked by pain and sorrow. His losses were so great, so profound, that fear started to creep in. The fear of losing more, the fear of enduring further pain, the fear of a future filled with nothing but hardship and despair. Yet it is here, in the midst of overwhelming fear, that the story of Job truly begins to shine. For Job, despite his fear, did not curse God or abandon his faith. Instead, he chose to navigate through his fear, to confront it head-on. He questioned, he struggled, and yes, he despaired. But throughout it all, he never let his fear overpower his faith. Job's journey wasn't easy. He faced the cruel whispers of doubt, the taunts of the devil, and the silence of God. Yet, he held on to his faith, standing firm in the face of fear. And in the end, his faith was rewarded. God restored his fortunes, gave him a new family, and blessed the latter part of his life more than the first. The story of Job is more than a tale of loss and restoration. It is a story about the power of faith in the face of fear. Job's faith allowed him to navigate through his fear, to endure unimaginable loss, and to emerge stronger on the other side. So when fear whispers in your ear, when it threatens to overpower you, remember Job. Remember his faith, his perseverance, and his ultimate triumph over fear. Job's story is a testament to the power of faith over fear. The Bible doesn't just narrate stories, it provides a guide to overcome fear. In the midst of our trials, in the depth of our fears, the Bible serves as a beacon of hope, offering guidance and solace. It reminds us that we are not alone, that we are loved, and that we have the power to conquer our fears. Consider the wisdom of 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, which states, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." This scripture underscores that fear is not a divine gift but a weapon used against us. Instead, we are gifted with power, love, and sound judgment, tools that we can use to combat our fears. Then there's Joshua, chapter 1 verse 9, which encourages us, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." This scripture reiterates the promise of divine companionship. It reminds us that we are not alone in our battles, that our fears and doubts do not isolate us, but rather, they are shared experiences that make us human. These scriptures and many others throughout the Bible serve as reminders of our inherent strength and courage. They remind us that fear, while a powerful adversary, is not insurmountable. With faith, with courage, with love, we can face our fears. We can confront them, challenge them, and ultimately, we can overcome them. The Bible doesn't just offer guidance, it offers a blueprint for resilience. It teaches us not just to withstand our fears, but to rise above them. It reminds us that we are more than our fears, more than our doubts. These scriptures remind us that with faith, courage, and God's love, we can overcome fear. These ancient texts are not just stories, they're lessons for our lives today. Think about it. Each narrative, each parable, each verse in the Bible is steeped in wisdom that we can apply to our lives, especially when it comes to conquering our fears. Take David and Goliath, for example. David, a humble shepherd boy, faced a towering giant. He could have succumbed to fear, doubted his abilities, and retreated, but he chose to trust in his faith and his skills, and he emerged victorious. The lesson is simple yet profound. No matter how intimidating our fears may seem, we can overcome them with faith and courage. And then there's the story of Job. Despite losing everything he held dear, Job refused to succumb to despair or doubt. He remained steadfast in his faith, and in the end his fortunes were restored manyfold. This narrative urges us to remain hopeful and steadfast, even in the face of adversity and fear. Now, how can we apply these lessons to our lives? Firstly, it's important to acknowledge our fears. Just like David facing Goliath or Job enduring trials, we must confront our fears head-on. Denying or avoiding them only gives them more power. Next, we need to cultivate faith and courage. Faith, in whatever form it takes for you, can be a powerful ally in battling fear. It provides a sense of hope and reassurance, reminding us that we are never alone in our struggles. Finally, we must remember to persevere. It's not about never feeling fear, but about not letting fear control us. It's about standing firm, even when the ground beneath us shakes. Like Job, we must remain steadfast, knowing that every storm eventually passes. These stories, these lessons from the Bible, are timeless guides. They remind us that we are capable of far more than we often give ourselves credit for. They teach us that fear is not an insurmountable obstacle, but a challenge to be overcome. Remember, fear is a weapon only when we allow it to be. It's a tool that can either hold us back or propel us forward. The choice, ultimately, is ours. So what's the takeaway from all this? In our journey through biblical stories and scriptures today, we've uncovered a profound reality. Fear, in its many forms, is a weapon that can prevent us from realizing our true potential. It's like a shadow that hovers, always threatening to engulf us in darkness. But remember, a shadow only exists where there is light. We've seen how fear was used as a weapon against David and Job, two figures who faced immense trials and tribulations. David, a mere shepherd boy, was pitted against a giant, a physical embodiment of overwhelming fear. But he did not let fear dictate his actions. Instead, he trusted in his faith, picked up his sling, and toppled the mighty Goliath. Job, on the other hand, had his faith tested to the extreme. Stripped of his wealth, health, and family, he was driven to the brink of despair. Yet, in his darkest hour, he did not let fear consume him. He held steadfast to his faith, proving that even in the face of immense suffering, we have the power to rise above our fears. These stories serve as reminders that fear is not a roadblock but a stepping stone. It is a challenge to be overcome, a test of our faith and courage. It whispers doubts into our ears, nudging us to question our worth, our abilities, our faith. But it is in these moments of doubt that we must remember to let our faith roar back. Our faith, our courage, these are the tools we possess to combat fear. They are our shields against the whispers of doubt, our swords to cut through the darkness. With them, we can rise above our fears, break free from the chains that hold us back, and stride towards becoming the best version of ourselves. In the end, it's not about eliminating fear, it's about learning to navigate it, to use it as a catalyst for growth and self-improvement. Fear may whisper doubts into your mind, but let your faith roar back with courage and conviction. Let's take a moment to reflect. We've journeyed through biblical stories, explored the nature of fear, and discovered how it can be both a weapon and a catalyst. We've seen how faith can be a beacon of light in the face of fear, guiding us through the darkest of times. But remember, this journey is not about eradicating fear. Instead, it's about learning to harness it. Fear is only as powerful as you allow it to be. It can be a daunting, towering giant like Goliath or a relentless, crippling test like Job's. But it's your faith, your courage that can help you conquer it. It's about picking up your sling, like David, and facing it head-on. It's about holding steadfast to your faith, like Job. Even when everything seems lost, remember, every shadow is proof of light, every fear is an opportunity for courage, and every trial is a stepping stone toward becoming the best version of yourself. So don't let fear hold you back. Harness it, conquer it, and let your faith guide you. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. We're all in this together, navigating our fears and learning to rise above them. So let's conquer our fears together. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and engage with us in the comments section. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your fears, and how you're overcoming them. Until next time, remember, fear may whisper, but let your faith roar.